As someone taking summer sessions for the first time, I'm curious about how professors adapt their schedules to fit the condensed time frame. Given that summer sessions courses are much shorter than regular semesters, how does your planning for the summer session differ from your planning for the fall or spring semester?
Yeah, so summer session is definitely different, obviously, than the academic year. I would say, though, that the actual course content doesn't differ that much. We generally try, in terms of the content that's covered, it's pretty much the same. But the big difference is in the kind of the pace in which it's covered, right? Mm-hmm. So summer session is obviously much more condensed. It's generally 6 or 8 week class. I am teaching a 6-week class. And so it's like an entire semester that's condensed into those 6 weeks. So the kind of main difference is that summer session is happening at a much kind of faster and more intense pace, right? Which in some ways can be challenging, both for teaching it and for the students, right? It's quite rigorous and it's very fast paced. But on the other hand, it comes with certain also benefits, right? So, you know, your class meetings are pretty much every day except for Fridays, right? And so what that allows for is this kind of intense immersion into the topic, whereas during the school year, generally students are taking a class with a whole bunch of other classes, and they meet, let's say, on Tuesday and Thursday, and then they're gone until the next Tuesday. So it's just like everything is always broken up, right? Whereas in summer session, it's like for 6 weeks, we're all just every day focusing on this topic, right? So it lends itself to a certain kind of intensity of immersion that is really actually nice, right? You're continuing from what you covered the day before without big breaks between it. The other thing that comes as a benefit is that the class meetings are longer. So generally most of my classes in the school year, it's an hour and a half class, right? In summer, that is extended to 2 hours. And, you know, in some ways that can be a bit rigorous. It's like a longer class, but I find it to be a huge benefit because it gives you that little bit of more time that's needed to actually be able to, like, for example, have discussions, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of times in the school year, I'm feeling rushed in the hour and 20 minutes I have, where it's just like, I got to cover this course content, and there's not much room or flexibility for more. But in summer session, it's just that little bit more time that's exactly what you need to actually give some space for discussion, which, you know, here at Cal, there are discussion sections that go with certain courses, but there's a lot less of them as the years go by. So, you know, students have less and less of an opportunity to engage in learning in ways that are more discussion-based, right? But summer session allows you to do that in classes. It also gives you the time to, like, for example, play some little video clips or other media and stuff that you often don't have time for in the year. So I think those are all kind of, you know, benefits to the different way that summer is structured, right? The other benefit is also that, you know, summer session classes tend to have much smaller enrollments than the school year. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an advantage that people often don't really talk about, is that especially in a university like ours here at Cal, where students are often taking their classes in these huge lectures, hundreds of students, right? Where there's very little kind of personal attention. And that's, you know, for the most part, the majority of the academic experience of many students at Cal. But summer sessions tend to have much smaller enrollments, so that you actually get to take a course with a much smaller number of other students that enables you to get the more personal attention that you probably wouldn't get in the academic school year. So I'm currently teaching my social movements class, which I teach during the school year, and it generally has at least 130 students in it. And right now, in the summer session, it's like 23 students. And I love it. I love getting to know all the students in the class, getting to know their names, they get to know each other, and it both enables me to give a level of attention to my students that they always deserve, but I'm not able to give when I have so many in the school year. And it also enables a certain kind of sense of community to develop in the classroom, right? Where, you know, people don't feel like they're just like one out of hundreds in this huge room, but actually like get to know each other, and it lends a great dynamic. So I think that's a huge advantage of summer school. And the other thing that I think is great about summer sessions is that it also draws lots of non-UC Berkeley students who enroll in the summer, which I think adds great diversity to the classroom. Like in the social movements class I'm teaching right now, we have a student who's visiting from UPenn, for example, as well as a number of international students, which there's always a good number of international students in summer session. So I think that kind of gives a certain diversity to the classroom that is really nice about summer session.
For our last question is about your class, Sociology 141. Before taking on Sociology 141, the social movements, I had a general idea of what social movements were, but lacked the understanding of their complexity and significance. But after we were on our midway of the course, my perspective shifted dramatically. I learned to connect theories and concepts with historical events, and which enriched my understanding of social movements. And this skill, I understand that is something I struggle with in other subjects like geography, history, and psychology, where applying and adapting theoretical knowledge to real-world scenarios was challenging. And I believe that this course has been instrumentally helped me in developing these crucial skills and allowing me to see the broader implications of social movements and their impact on society. And this brings me to my question, where I want to ask, why should we take sociology classes, and what impact do they have on our daily lives and understanding of the world around us? I mean, we're in Berkeley, where all the social movements, the free speech movement, for example, which is the crucial event that happened in Berkeley, happened. So I just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So obviously I may be biased, but I think that sociology is like, it's so important. And it's you know, at the end of the day, sociology is all about making sense of the world around us. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, we learn history, we learn theories, but the point of all of it is to be able to apply it, to be able to understand the world that we live in, right? And that's, I think, what characterizes sociologists. They tend to be obsessed with making sense of the world around them, right? And you know, ultimately, the reason why we try and understand the world, try and understand why it is the way it is, how it became the way it is because if we can understand that, then it makes it possible to strive for alternatives, right? If we understand why this is this way, then it could be otherwise. So, you know, I think that the criteria of good sociology is it relevant? Like, and that's what I take as the biggest compliment from my students is when they say, like, wow, this class feels really relevant to my life, right? And it should be. Like, that's what sociology is meant to do, is like give you the knowledge of history, give you the theoretical concepts, to be able to just open your eyes, to be able to see things in a new way, right? And so I think that students, no matter what their major is, like, it can be in the sciences, it can be taking 1 or 2 sociology classes, is a wonderful thing to get under your belt, to be able to get that, right?
That was it for our last question. Is there anything that you want to add, or?
I think that's it. You took us through very nicely. I feel like we covered everything I planned and then much more that I wasn't even expecting.
Oh,
so
that's so
it was
great.
wonderful. That actually turned out really interesting.